wondered how to make your bike photos look like the pros? Well, you're in luck because today we're meeting up with cycling culture legend John Prawley Watson, founder of The Radavist, and he is single-handedly responsible for setting the standard for bicycle photography to this day. So let's join John in the field as he takes us through the steps of creating professional quality photographs of bikes.
Little backstory about me, I was an architect in my previous life, and so the way I developed this methodology of shooting bikes comes from my architecture background of how you look at a building. So you look at a very flat elevation, and then you flip the page and there's larger scale details. You flip the page again and there's like closer scale details. So what I try to do is I try to compress the bike to as flat of a profile as possible. When I started doing this, everyone was just using 50mm lenses. With a 200mm lens, you really compress and flatten the bike so you can see a lot of things about the geometry. And that's where I came up with my opinion about how a crank arm should be positioned on a bike. Because when a crank arm is in line with the chainstays, you really start to understand a little bit about the bike's trail, toe overlap, geometry, bottom bracket drop. It's like the crank becomes part of the geometry and the lines that make up the bike. And also then you don't have to see the crank arm on the other side of the chainstay. But I just usually pinch the crank and the chainstay between two fingers. And that gives me a good estimate about like where it should be. And then I'll keep the pedals flat. So here you can see, like, if imagine your foot clipped into that pedal and the distance between the pedal and the tire, someone like me looks at that and says, hey, there's no toe overlap on that bike. That's sweet. You look at like a Randa Nuring bike with fenders and suddenly like you got your toe clip or your clipless pedal situation and you're like, oh man, my toe's gonna come really close to those fenders. Like there's a lot of overlap on that bike. And if you're just looking at things like images online, I think you can kind of train yourself to look at a bike's geometry and understand a little bit about how it's going to ride based on that. First is the setting. It's like with all photography, like you want something about the environment that you're shooting the bike to reflect on the bike. So when I saw Jeremy's bike and the purple hints, and I saw that purple bush, and because I'm shooting with a really long lens, I can get in front of that purple bush and get some of those purple flowers to like hang over the photo and like, you know, give it some purple accent. Also like to have a lot of space behind, because when you're shooting with as we jokingly call it, a birding lens, you know, you compress the space, and if something is right behind it, it's going to look like it's right behind the bike. Like when these bike showcases started happening, like no one was bringing bikes outside. Like I was like asking permission to bring bikes outside and shoot them outside for all the same reasons with the long lens, and so now you see all these journalists are outside. I think about this stuff too much, admittedly, but it's kind of one of my favorite things to do.
What is that?
So this is the bike stand, and I've been using stands like this for 20 years. And what I do is I usually take a metal rod and prop up the bike and then shoot the photo and then Photoshop out and clone stamp so it looks like the bike is floating. I don't really know anyone that was doing that. I don't like saying someone did something first. Everything's been done, right? But I definitely kind of felt like I was one of those people that developed that style. And then because I'm friends with all these frame builders, like 10 years ago, I was hanging out with Aaron Stinner, and I was like, dude, I want a bike stand that like breaks down and has 2 feet, and I can like put it in a pocket.
Always bottom bracket, not the anywhere else?
Yeah, it's easier to remove it with Photoshop, like with clone stamp. You put it behind the wheel and then suddenly you're like sitting there.
Spokes.
Yeah,
bullshit.
Rebuilding the whole wheel. Yeah, I think we'll end up shooting about 70 bikes this weekend. All those sticks are getting removed. The biggest challenge about doing it like this is a gust of wind comes off the Willamette and just blows the bike over. So I usually bring the frame builder out, have them spot it, or Carrie will spot it for me, or someone, just to make sure it doesn't fall. This is Jeremy's bike, so I'm not as worried about it because it's his personal bike and it's gonna wreck.
Hold on.
Yeah.
It's his personal bike and he's gonna wreck.
Yeah.
We don't assume you're gonna wreck.
We all wreck.
What, really?
Yeah. That's why the website's original slogan was "Rubber Side Up," because it was like that's when you learn something. You learn from your mistake. But this is pretty stable. It's set up great now, and we got a nice little puddle for some reflections. And
Okay, yeah. So the puddle, that's intentional.
yes, so you can see a little bit of stormy clouds and a little reflection of a bike. And then I get all anal and this is slightly off. So I'm gonna come in and slightly adjust it. And you don't have to be this crazy about it. I mean, I just get like this because I think it's the architect in me, and I think it's because these guys spend so much time building these amazing machines, and I just want it to be like presented as this thing and kind of be part of that story of displaying them.
Anybody else out there got an extra bike or 6 that they've been meaning to sell, but you just haven't been wanting to deal with Craigslist? No, I will not hold it for you, or even worse, offer up. It clearly states pickup only. Well, lucky for us, there's a new player in town looking to change the game in the pre-owned bike market. They're a small group of cyclists that go by the name Bicycle, like B-U-Y cycle. Bicycle.com. Oh, I get it. What makes them so special? They offer buyer protection, secure payments, and they even have ultrasonic carbon fiber checks. It's a girl to look for stress fractures and delamination in carbon frames. I could probably use that. And for those of us whose partners think we have a bicycle problem, the selling process is streamlined with suggested pricing, a fast, convenient listing option. That's nothing. I heard Ron listed in under 3 parsecs. And your posting will have a global reach of over 30 countries. Take that, Craigslist. Not to mention, they'll send you a box, shipping supplies, a label, and schedule the pickup. Thank God. So whether you got a road bike, gravel bike, mountain bike, even a tri-bike, they're interested. They're like a pre-owned bicycle cornucopia. Is that how you use that word? So check out bicycle.com to make all your pre-owned bicycle selling and acquiring dreams come true. I'm really hoping you're N+1 in here, but if you sell and replace, that also works. Do you care about the valve stems being in a specific spot?
I don't really care if they're up or down. It's more about the tire labels. So, you see this is a Schwalbe tire and it's a knobby nick, and you want to be able to read that. So in this case, the valve stem would go up. Sometimes tires are on the other way, and then you would want the valve stem to go down. But it's really just a case-by-case scenario for me. Oh yeah, there's some purple. We got purple here. But this gives you an idea of how far away you are when you're shooting. So this just shows you like the kind of like backside of the bike, and then I do on the front, and then I do a drive side photo. So those are your elevations, like a building, like when you're looking at blueprints. So it's like, I can see this bike, and then you have a visual reference. So when you start zooming in and getting some of the tighter shots of all the details, you're like, that's what that's from, that's what that's from. And I try to sequence everything so that it like breaks it down in scale. When you get into the details, you can kind of see the construction. And also maybe even understand the material, because that could be a titanium bike that's just painted.
Hi, I'm Jeremy Cesip and Cesip Designs in Santa Rosa, California. This is my personal bike. It's a double dribble model, and it's my full suspension frame. It's all steel. I've done a bunch of full suspension bikes in the past, but I've always bought back ends from people like Ventana. But this time I decided to make my own rear end out of steel. And it's a single pivot with as least amount of bearings as possible. So I decided to use a bottom bracket for my main pivot, which is threaded in. It's easily replaceable. Yeah, it rides pretty well, I think.
Canon R5 with a 70-200 f2.8 L lens. Pretty bomber. It's a tool. I just shoot this lens wide open.
Manual?
No, autofocus. Especially when you're doing like and aperture priority. Yeah, just 2.8, and then the general rule of thumb is you want your shutter speed to be about as fast as your millimeter at a minimum. So if you're shooting 200 millimeters, you want at least a 200th of a second. So got the establishing shots, get to see with the bike. Okay, it's a full suspension. Now we start to go in and like look at some of the details. Still at the 200, still at 2.8. I will stop it down, which means to make the aperture smaller if there's like a detail that I want to show more of. So like f4.5, sometimes I'll shoot, like if there's a beautiful fillet brazed, which is melted brass connecting 2 tubes together, connection, and I want to show the curvature and how the brass is wrapping around the head tube, I'll shoot it at 200 like f8. which just shows more in focus.
Just use your t-shirt to wipe your...
Well, I'm one of these goons that puts a filter on every lens.
Okay.
So that I don't ever have to worry. I don't use a lens cap, and then I can just toss it in a bag, and I'm not going to miss a shot with a lens cap on. It protects the glass, and people are like, why would you put a $40 piece of glass in front of a $2,500 lens? And it's like, well, because honestly, you really can't tell, because everyone's just looking at the shit on their phone. You just want things to feel like second nature and not have to worry about things. I know we're getting rained on, but this is really good light. No hard shadow lines. Everything's very like soft, and you can see the kind of like the reflection, like the spectral reflection going down the top tube. That's just a really nicely lit bike. There's a really great shot of Jeremy's $2 rebate on the back, and this could take me, you know, extra time to Photoshop out because I'd have to rebuild this crank. So I'll just come over here and drop it into the through axle, and then I can come down and I'm like, get a little bit of everything in focus. These flip out screens on these new mirrorless systems are just like, they literally save your back. Because I used to be like laying down on the ground to like shoot stuff, and you know, I think like these fundamentals of like establishing a style and kind of anything are so important because everything just kind of looks the same these days. And it's like if you can do something different and like bring a different approach or style to something, everyone's benefiting from that because you're progressing the sport or the whatever it is you're doing, you know. And yeah, like you say, like everything's been done, so like if you're gonna do something, like it's really sweet to just like try to bring something new to the mix. The ones that cause pause and as you're scrolling make you stop and go, that's fucking cool. I think those are the few and far between moments, but they're also the really special moments. Yeah. I like shooting the builder with the bike because I think a lot of builders' personalities are shown in what they create. Rather than having the builder like hold the bike, I was like, what if they sat like 5 feet behind it and then I shot them with a 200 so the bike is out of focus and the builder's in focus. And I just think that's a good example, I think, of like doing something different and experimenting. Can you move to your left? Or other way. Yeah, there you go, perfect. You can kind of see how he's in focus and the bike's slightly out of focus, and also the different scale it does to the bike. And I don't know, just if I make one person stop and go, oh, that's different, that's kind of the goal, is to just bring something different to the table. Do you remember the headshots and head tubes?
Yes.
I'm doing that again this year.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. 2015, I think it was Nabs in Austin, right?
Maybe, yeah.
I shot like a head tube shot of the bike and then a head shot of the builder and then put them side by side. In general, I like to shoot a little bit wider when I shoot a portrait because if you shoot someone's face with a 200, it does the same thing that the bike does. It compresses and flattens and makes your faces look like puffy. So I'm not going to bring another lens, so I'll just shoot it at 70. And then the hardest part is like getting them to like reflect their personality a little bit. So you kind of like want to say something that I think. Should I go grab Jay too? And see, yeah. See, you just cracked a little smile, and it's like perfect. See something that you didn't shoot, and you're like I'm like I want to get that tire clearance, which is kind of hard to do with a swing arm. Get all the layers, everything, get everything squared up. Yeah, that'll do. Yeah, so that's how I shoot a bike, and then I just do that
over and over and over.
40 times, 50 times at a show like this.
Now, to elevate your cycling knowledge that much further, you'll have to watch this video where we go over 24 years of cycling knowledge in only 8 minutes. Yeah, that's good value.